I believe the best version of the Spider-Verse isn't in the movies. And don't get me wrong, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are both incredible films. They pushed animation, emotion, and storytelling to a whole new level. But after playing through the Insomniac Spider-Man series, from Peter Parker's emotional highs and lows to Miles Morales' journey of self-discovery, I started to wonder if the real Spider-Verse might be unfolding in the world of gaming. Now let's take a step back and look throughout the history of Spider-Man. Spider-Man first swung onto the scene in 1962, and since then it's been a cultural icon here in America. From comic books to action figures to the big screen debut in 2002, and now an entire multiverse of Spider people, he's one of the most recognizable and beloved heroes of all time. We've seen a lot of different versions of Spider-Man from Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, but what Insomniac has done with the Spider-Man universe feels completely different. It's not just flashy gameplay or cool suits, it's layered, character-driven world that explores identity, sacrifice, legacy, and grief in ways that honestly rival the films. And in this video, I'm going to break down why I believe Insomniac Spider-Verse might actually be a better depiction of the Spider-Man legacy than all of the movies, especially when it comes to Miles Morales. But before we dive in, if this is your first time here, hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Brad. I break down games and stories that hit emotionally and leave you thinking. So if you're into deep dives and game theories, please hit that subscribe button. Now let's get back into the video. Right from the opening scene of Spider-Man 2018, it makes it clear this is a different kind of Spider-Man story. We're not starting in high school, and we're not doing another origin story. This Peter Parker is experienced. He's been Spider-Man for years, and he's already deep into this life. The opening shot pans across his apartment. In just a few seconds, you get a sense of everything that's going on. You see the mess, the gadgets, the newspaper clippings from his past battles, and then, right by the door, a late rent notice. It's subtle, but it nails the tone of what's going on. Peter is still that relatable broke superhero, but this time, he's not trying to figure it all out. He's already in the middle of it. Then without missing a beat, the game throws you into your first mission, which is going to be taking down Kingpin. Now, putting Fisk right at the start is a brilliant move. He's one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains, and in this universe, he's already been active for years. The game assumes you know who he is, and it uses that familiarity to its advantage. This isn't some slow build, this is a full throttle Spider-Man from the jump. Fisk's arrest feels like a major win for Spider-Man. After years of crime and corruption, Peter finally brings him in, but just as Fisk is being dragged away, he drops one line that changes everything.
You're gonna need it.
Idiot! I'm the one who kept order in this city! 1 month! In 1 month you wish you had me back!
And with this one line, that's where things really begin. Because without Fisk's grip on the city, a power vacuum opens up, and suddenly new threats start to emerge. And this is where the Sinister Six starts getting woven into the story. But again, this is not an origin story. These villains already have history with Peter. He's already faced and defeated most of these villains. That's what sets the Insomniac Spider-Verse apart from the other stories so far. It's not a reset, it's not starting from zero. This world already has layers and villains with backstories and allies with scars, and a city that's been through it with Spider-Man before you even press a button for this game. So by the time you see Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, and the others, it doesn't feel like they're being introduced. It feels like they're coming back into the story. Like something bigger is building and Spider-Man is already one step behind them. And this approach is what gives the Insomniac universe so much weight. It respects the past without needing to explain it all. You feel the history, the relationships, the consequences, and all of it starts from the very first mission. And this is one of the main reasons why I love Spider-Man, and why I think this version of him might just be the best we've ever had. Peter has always been known for doing what he believes is right, constantly trying to help the people around him, even if it means sacrificing his own stability. And the game nails that personality to the T. Taking down Kingpin in the opening scene felt like the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. But what Peter didn't expect is just how much worse things could get with Fisk out of the picture. That one decision, removing the city's most powerful crime boss, unintentionally opens the door to total chaos. Because while Fisk was evil, he also kept order in the city. Once that order is gone, the smaller villains start crawling out of the cracks. And that's the beauty of Peter's character in this universe. He's not perfect. His desire to do good often backfires. You see it in this game, and you see it even more in Spider-Man 2. That need to fix everything, to carry the weight of the whole city, ends up just creating more problems. But that's what makes him feel so human, because he means well. He tries and he does care, but the consequences of his actions are real, and the city doesn't always bounce back. And that's why I loved this intro to this game. Just straight into the action, one major villain removed, and suddenly the city unravels. It's the perfect setup for the chaos to come, and it's exactly how you establish a living, breathing Spider-Verse. Now, this would not be a Spider-Verse if we did not have Miles Morales. From the moment Miles shows up, Insomniac makes it clear. This kid isn't just a side character. He is essential. In fact, in this version of the Spider-Verse, if there were no Miles, there might not even be a Peter. From the start, Miles is helping Peter in the background indirectly, as his father is the one who was first introduced to us. And after that tragic loss of his father in the City Hall bombing, Miles begins the journey that every Spider person has to go through. The loss of someone close. This is what is known as the canon event. It's something that we see over and over in every single Spider-Man story. The death of a loved one is often the moment that forges the mask. And in this universe, Peter doesn't just let that moment pass. He steps in. He mentors Miles, not because he has to, but because he knows what that kind of pain feels like. He has experienced it himself, and he wants to make sure that Miles doesn't spiral or lose himself in grief. This is the big reason why I love Insomniac's take on Peter. He's always trying to do the right thing, to help the people around him, even if he's barely holding on together himself. And that's exactly what we start to see in this part of the game. Peter is taking on way more than he can actually handle. There's the definition of being overstretched. He is a prime example of what we all lie about on our job applications, of being an excellent multitasker, when in reality, he's trying to juggle 12 things at once and dropping half of them in the process. That's not a flaw in his character. That is his character. He cares too much, says yes too often, and usually puts himself last. And because of that, he misses things sometimes. That's how Otto slips. Peter is so focused on catching Lee, helping Miles, and staying afloat that he doesn't see Otto's slow descent. Or better yet, he does notice it, but he is too occupied to actually step in before it is too late. The warning signs are there. The bitterness, the frustration, the way Otto starts talking about legacy and power, but Peter is stretched too thin to do anything about it. By the time he does, it's too late. Otto turns into Doc Ock, fueled by resentment, anger, and betrayal. This spiral feels earned because you watched it build. And honestly, this whole dynamic, Peter's overwhelming responsibilities, the consequences of spreading himself too thin, the mentor turning into the monster, is something I feel is missing from the movie versions of Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, I love the Sam Raimi trilogy for what it was, especially how it introduced me to Spider-Man. But Tobey's version always felt a little stiff to me. In Spider-Man 3 especially, he leans into this self-indulgent, melodramatic version of Peter that's hard to relate to, even though it was very funny in some parts. The Andrew Garfield version, personally, still my favorite, showed more raw emotion. He felt like a real person. When Gwen dies in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, that scene still hits me to this day. You feel his grief, the regret in his decision that he was not able to save Gwen. And Tom Holland's Spider-Man, it's fun and charming, but it often feels a little bit too safe. His world is usually under control, and even when it's not, he's surrounded by constant help with Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and even his friends who are constantly always there with him. What those movies all seem to miss is that Peter Parker is never in control. He's constantly juggling everything. Relationships, rent, citywide threats, and that's the beauty of it. He's trying to save everyone all the time, and it wears on him. The films usually give him one goal at a time, but this game gives him 12. And that's what makes Insomniac's version feel so real and so connected to the heart of what Spider-Man actually is. His inability to slow down, his instinct to help everyone, creates the very threat he ends up having to fix. His good intentions lead to disaster, and he owns it. He feels it. That's the thread that ties the entire story together. And it all begins with Peter taking Miles under his wing while everything else in the world starts to crack. And once the devil's breath is released, that's when things truly start to go off the rails. Now we're gonna skip ahead a little bit because the other parts of the game aren't as important to what we're talking about here in the Spider-Verse. After Peter takes down the other members of the Sinister Six, all that's left is the final confrontation of Peter versus Doc Ock. In this scene, it's not just a boss fight. It's the emotional climax of the entire game. This isn't Spider-Man versus a supervillain. It's Peter confronting someone who was once his mentor, one of his closest friends, and honestly, a father figure. Watching that moment unfold broke me. The writing, the performance, the music, everything comes together in this raw, vulnerable scene where Peter tells Otto he's not angry, that he's just disappointed. And that hurts more than anything else, because Peter still sees the man who believed in him, the man who pushed him to be better. And now that same man has become the very threat that Peter has to stop. Otto's fall wasn't born out of pure evil. It was born from desperation. He wanted to find a cure from his condition, to leave behind a legacy. And as if that wasn't enough, it's followed by another blow. Peter finally gets his hand on the anti-serum, the thing that could save Aunt May's life, his last remaining family member. But there's only enough for one dose. One life can be saved. And if he uses it to save her, everyone else in the city dies. And in true Spider-Man fashion, Peter makes the hardest possible choice. He doesn't save her. He stays by her bedside, holds her hand, and lets her go. Because saving the many means sacrificing the one. It's devastating and it's personal, but it's also the clearest definition of who this Spider-Man is. A hero who loses just as much as he saves. Someone who holds the weight of every decision and still keeps going. These moments, losing Otto, losing Aunt May, are what solidified this version of Spider-Man as something truly special. Because it's not just about saving the city, it's about the cost of doing the right thing and still choosing to do it anyway. While all this is still going on, the Sinister Six, the Devil's Breath, the loss of Aunt May, something else is quietly unfolding in the background of the game. Miles Morales just gets bit by the radioactive spider, and now we have a secondary Spider-Man. And at first, it feels small. It happens quietly, almost like an afterthought, but that moment, that's the spark for everything that's coming next. Because now it's not just Peter anymore. Miles is now becoming Spider-Man 2. Now with the Sinister Six back in prison and the Devil's Breath has finally been contained, Peter starts training Miles not as a sidekick, not as a backup plan, but as a true partner. And I love this direction that Insomniac took with this. They could have easily just made Miles a few missions in Spider-Man 2, maybe a DLC add-on for their Spider-Man in 2018, but they didn't do that. Instead, they gave us a full game with Spider-Man Miles Morales, a standalone story that gave Miles the time and space to become his own hero. And that creative decision, it's everything. It tells us that Miles isn't just another Spider-Man, he's Miles. He has his own voice, his own style, his own culture, and most importantly, his own struggles. And that journey isn't easy. The game doesn't shy away from showing how heavy the responsibility is of becoming Spider-Man. Miles is still grieving the loss of his father. He's trying to find his footing in a new neighborhood. He's figuring out school, friendships, and how to keep everything balanced at the same time, all while learning how to be a superhero. And on top of that, he's dealing with the pressure of not just being Spider-Man, but being the second Spider-Man. It's something that the game directly addresses throughout the entire theme of it. The idea that Miles might just be a knockoff, a backup, a stand-in while Peter's doing whatever he's doing. But by the end of the story, that narrative flips. Because it's not just Peter who believes in him. The city now believes in him. Harlem believes in him. Miles becomes more than just a villain, he becomes their Spider-Man. And that's what makes this game so important. It bridges the gap between Peter and Miles, but more importantly, it allows both of them to stand on their own. Spider-Man Miles Morales closes important emotional gaps from the first game. It helps New York begin to heal. It gives Miles a full arc and it sets up Spider-Man 2 in a way that feels earned. And now with Miles becoming his own hero, that opens up something that we haven't really seen before. Peter Parker finally has a chance to step back. And this becomes a major theme in Spider-Man 2, the idea that Peter might be burning out. After everything he's been through, losing Otto, losing Aunt May, losing control of the city, he's still showing up, but it's clear, he is tired. And Miles being ready, it kind of gives Peter something that he's never really had the luxury of before, and that's some breathing room. He doesn't have to carry everything anymore, he has someone else to share that load with. Insomniac didn't just build a great story here, they built a legacy. So when Spider-Man 2 picks up, it's not just a sequel, it's the next chapter of something that's already been emotionally grounded and fully realized up to this point. Peter and Miles side by side, both with something to prove, both with different kinds of pressure, and a whole new threat that's about to shake everything up. Now, let's talk about Spider-Man 2. This game expanded the Insomniac Spider-Verse in a very massive way. It went from being a game with 2 Spider-Man to a game that is going to feature possibly dozens of them. Even before the game dropped, we already knew Insomniac was cooking something big. There were rumors flying around about a Spider-Verse multiplayer game being in development, and unfortunately that project has been since canceled. But what's interesting is that in Spider-Man 2, it still contains a ton of clues of Insomniac pointing in that direction. There's a bunch of hidden riddles, collectible dialogue, and even visual cameos that all suggest Insomniac has a larger multiversal plan in place when it comes to Spider-Man. But right from the start, this game opens up loud. We're dropped into a massive fight with Sandman that absolutely wrecks parts of New York City. It's one of the most cinematic openings in the entire series to date, and it instantly sets the tone of what this game is going to be. It's going to be bigger, more chaotic, and more dangerous than anything Peter and Miles have dealt with so far. But what makes this intro really work is what we see before the action starts. Peter's not swinging through the streets like usual, he's in a classroom, teaching. He's actually trying to build a normal life for himself, something he's never really had the chance to do before, and this is a huge theme in Spider-Man 2. Peter is trying to take a major step back from being Spider-Man because honestly he's exhausted, burnt out, and with Miles stepping up and handling crimes across the city, Peter finally sees a window to live life for himself. And this shift isn't just a character moment, it's a plot driver. It changes the entire tone and theme of Spider-Man 2. Peter's desire to pull back leaves him vulnerable, and that's when Kraven shows up. Kraven's whole mission for this entirety of the game is hunting the world's most powerful beings to prove his dominance, and also to have someone who's worthy enough to kill him since he is already dying from cancer. He is chasing the villains that Spider-Man has defeated, but eventually Pete does get on his radar, and their encounter is absolutely brutal. And just when it seems like Peter is about to die in their fight, the symbiote chooses him. And this is one of the biggest differences between Insomniac's version of Venom and the Raimi film. The symbiote shows up almost by coincidence. It latches onto Peter while he's asleep, no real reason or build up, but in Spider-Man 2, it's earned. Peter is on the brink of death. His city is in crisis, and the symbiote sees him as the perfect host, not just for survival, but because of Peter's rage, pain, and need for power. And this version of Venom that we get is absolutely incredible. The design, the voice, the transformation, it's terrifying, powerful, and emotional all at once. And through Venom, we're introduced to even more pieces of the Spider-Verse, like Scream, who plays a major role late in the story, but she's not too important for this video, so we're not going to talk about her too much. We don't get to see Carnage in this game as well, but there are heavy hints that he should be coming to Spider-Man 2 if we get DLC, but if we don't, I'll be surprised if he's not a major plot point at the beginning of Spider-Man 3. But the Spider-Verse elements really start kicking in when you start collecting the spider bots throughout the game. These aren't just little side collectibles or multiversal anchors that show that there is a larger world out there. And once you collected all of them, you actually unlock a brief sequence that teases the Spider-Verse directly, including visual nods to the animated films and references to alternate dimension. It's subtle, but it's very clear that Insomniac is planning to expand this universe far beyond just Peter and Miles. And speaking of expansion, we just can't skip over the post-credit scene that happened in this game, which gives us one of the most exciting teasers for Spider-Man 3, the introduction of Cindy Moon, aka Silk. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with her story, Cindy was bitten by the same spider that bit Peter, and depending on which version we get, she can either be a close ally or a much darker character. It's still unclear whether Insomniac will go with her villain arc or her anti-hero arc, or make her a full-blown hero along the way, but either way, this is a major shift. It's no longer just about passing the torch between Peter and Miles. This could be the start of a larger team of Spider people, each with their own stories and conflicts and battles ahead. And I hope they take their time with it this time. Because here's the thing, Spider-Man 2 was a very good game, but it did feel rushed at times. Some character arcs, especially Venom's, could have used more room to breathe. Some missions felt like they were just setting up huge storylines that never really fully landed. And with everything going on in Peter's arc, Miles' development, the symbiote storyline, Kraven, Venom, Scream, the Spider-Verse in general, there are moments where it felt like we needed at least 10 to 15 more hours of gameplay to let it all sink in. But even with that, it's clear that Spider-Man 2 is a foundation for something much bigger. This isn't just a sequel. It's the middle of a chapter of something that's evolving into one of the most exciting, probably the most ambitious superhero universes in gaming. And with Spider-Man 3 on the horizon, possibly with Silk, Carnage, and more Spider people on deck, the best might still be ahead of us. So to wrap it all up, Insomniac's Spider-Verse is quickly becoming one of the best versions of Spider-Man that we've ever seen outside of the main comic universe. It captures everything that makes Spider-Man feel real. The struggle, the sacrifice, the dual identity, but it also does something that very few adaptations get right. It builds a world around those ideas, a world that's evolving, full of consequences, and rich with potential. What started as a one game about Peter Parker has grown into a fully realized universe with Miles Morales, Venom, Silk, and more characters likely on the way. And the best part, it doesn't feel like it's chasing trends or copying the movies. is carving out its own path. With a developer like Insomniac behind the wheel, this Spider-Verse has the chance to become something truly legendary. Peter's arc is far from over, Miles is just getting started, and with everything teased from Carnage to Cindy Moon, and possibly even a full multiverse of spider heroes, the future of the series looks absolutely bright. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you'll love this one as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I'm here for you, always.